Some wrestlers leave WWE amicably, others not so much. So let's check out 10 wrestlers probably blacklisted from the WWE. Ryback had a pretty interesting career during his time with WWE. The former Tough Enough contestant and IC champion first debuted on the main roster as a part of the Nexus in 2010. Under the leadership of Wade Barrett, the Nexus became one of the most dominant factions WWE had ever seen, until of course the company screwed them over with foolish booking decisions. During the run of the Nexus, Sheffield broke his ankle and underwent 3 surgeries, which kept him out of action for a pretty good bit. When he eventually returned, the cowboy hat was gone and Ryback was born. With a new attire and a pretty sweet beard, Ryback spent the next few months as a monster face taking out nameless jobbers. It wasn't long before he was challenging for the WWE title, but the higher the company pushed him, the more obvious it became that Ryback didn't have what it took to hang with the best. It wasn't long before he fell down the card and teamed up with Curtis Axel to form Rybaxel. His Feed Me More gimmick is probably the best thing that happened to him in Vince's company, as a return to that gimmick earned him an Intercontinental title. Just like before, he slid back down the card and ended up leaving the company in 2016 due to a contract dispute. The big guy stated that a lack of equal pay for talent and a poor creative direction were the main reasons behind his departure. Since leaving, he left no stone unturned to make sure that he gets blacklisted. He's gone out of his way to insult his former employers and has lambasted Vince and company for the way they have run WWE. Unlike a lot of other superstars who have left the company and come back as much bigger competitors, Ryback hasn't really seen his stock rise much since leaving. So if you think you're going to see Ryback in a WWE ring again, don't hold your breath. WWE has had a penchant for mishandling some of the most promising talent, and the way it treated Cody Rhodes was no different. He could have easily been a main eventer, but WWE chose to saddle one of its best superstars with a series of gimmicks that should have buried him, but he would make the most of it. Whether he was playing the role of dashing Cody Rhodes, or being a weirdo with Stardust, he found a way to consistently get over. In May of 2016, he announced that he had been given his release by WWE. Around this time, reports began to brew that Rhodes had asked WWE to get rid of his Stardust gimmick for over 6 months, but the company refused, even though he offered a number of alternatives. Regardless of the potential, he spent years wasting away in the mid-card and lower card, not really growing. Letting Rhodes go could have easily been one of the biggest mistakes WWE has ever made, as after leaving, he's become the American Nightmare, one of the most sought-after independent wrestlers in the world. Instead of potentially returning to WWE, Rhodes along with the Elite started up their own wrestling promotion, AEW. The promotion recently had a successful Double or Nothing pay-per-view and have an awesome roster consisting of the likes of Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega. AEW has sent a strong message to the entire wrestling community. There's another alpha in the business. When he smashed that throne with a sledgehammer, Cody Rhodes sent a painfully clear message: AEW is coming for WWE. With that, Rhodes has made an enemy in the form of WWE and Vince McMahon, which have probably blacklisted him. And the only way we could see Rhodes in a WWE ring ever again would be if AEW fails, or if AEW is bought out by WWE, but as things stand, both options seem highly unlikely. Steiner is one of the most iconic figures in the world of pro wrestling. He became a megastar during his time with WCW and even had a brief stint with WWE, which didn't really end so well. The fact that he had a poor relationship with WWE officials on his way out of the company is no secret. Big Papa Pump had a reputation for being a pretty outspoken guy, and he still does, as he's ripped WWE a new one every time he's gotten a chance. He called his experience working for WWE brutal, and stated that every time he was involved with WWE, he thought about quitting the business. To make matters worse, he said that WWE's backstage officials were complete weirdos, and he would go on to single out Stephanie with a few unsavory words. He went on to say he feels bad for WWE superstars because they are saddled with terrible characters that hold them back, in addition to cutting promos and doing interviews that force them to vomit the words WWE creative rights for them, word for word. Now look, Steiner isn't entirely wrong in his criticism, but an argument could be made that he should have chosen words more wisely. By calling Stephanie a word that rhymes with blunt, Steiner has pretty much ensured that he has destroyed his relationship with WWE. A Hall of Fame induction is highly unlikely as a direct result of these remarks, but he probably sealed his own fate when he was banned from attending the 2015 Hall of Fame ceremony after reportedly threatening to kill Hulk Hogan. That's not very nice now, is it? Back when Moxley was still Ambrose, he was one of the biggest stars in WWE. When he returned in August of 2018 after 9 months, he was sporting a new look and wrestled with a renewed intensity that gave his character a second wind. When he turned heel the night of Roman Reigns' leukemia announcement, it seemed like Ambrose was going to become a top heel on Raw, but as WWE has done so many times, the company completely screwed up his character, and it was only a matter of time before WWE announced that Ambrose would not be renewing his contract. For a long time, people speculated whether this was a part of a story because the company pretty much never acknowledges these kind of things, but that isn't what happened. Ambrose didn't renew his contract, and before we knew it, he was gone. He released a video hyping the return of Jon Moxley as the internet went insane thinking he would show up at Double or Nothing. He did, and now the former Grand Slam champion of WWE is a member of AEW. After leaving, Moxley went on a rant about everything wrong with WWE and what drove him to leave. The company's poor creative direction for his character and just the kind of segments he was getting involved in on a regular basis. He took direct shots at Vince and Lesnar in particular, and if a 1.5 hour rant is anything to go by, it doesn't matter that WWE has probably already blacklisted him. He isn't coming back anyway. Neville was flying high for months as the king of the cruiserweights before WWE decided to pull the rug out from under him. The company decided to build the 205 Live roster around Enzo Amore, and even gave him the title that Neville had spent months legitimizing. Neville did not take kindly to losing his position at the top, especially the manner in which he did. In an interview after leaving, Neville, now Pac, stated that he found Enzo annoying backstage and didn't like the idea of jobbing to people he shouldn't be jobbing to. He walked out on the company sometime in October of 2017 and let his contract run out before returning to the Indies and becoming Pac once again. Alberto Del Rio has always been a divisive figure in the world of pro wrestling, and his 2 runs in WWE proved that he might not just be worth the effort. He was first fired by WWE in August of 2014 after he physically assaulted an employee who was alleged to have made a racist joke. After a run in the Indies for about a year, Del Rio returned to WWE to defeat John Cena and become US champion. His return to Vince's company was mired in controversy, as he ended his marriage, embarked on an ill-advised romance with Paige, and ended up opting out of his contract with WWE, citing that WWE made him false promises and that he was unhappy with his position. Del Rio has seemingly been reliable as a performer, but he comes with a fair amount of baggage, so naturally any promotion would wary of having him on as a full-time member. WWE have given him 2 chances, both of which have ended acrimoniously, so the company has probably blacklisted him for the foreseeable future, especially with superstars like Andrade who would appeal to a similar audience without all the drama. Chris Jericho is the king of gimmicks, and no one is going to question that. The Ayatollah of rock and roll has somehow managed to reinvent himself to remain relevant for decades, having the best run of his career as Kevin Owens' best friend just a couple of years ago. He became a part-timer not too long ago, but it was always assumed that Jericho would find his way back to WWE at the end of the day. He sent shockwaves through the wrestling community when he showed up in New Japan to face Kenny Omega. This would eventually spell the end of Jericho in WWE, but he claims he told Vince that he was going to appear in New Japan beforehand. He must not have been as understanding when Jericho signed with AEW, and Jericho being left off SmackDown 1000 pretty much confirmed that WWE had decided to distance themselves from Jericho, and it doesn't seem like it is going to be changing anytime soon, especially now that Jericho has revealed that more stars will probably want out of WWE after Jon Moxley's departure. If you have family in pro wrestling, odds are that it will be a bit easier for you to find your footing in the squared circle. If you just so happen to be good at what you do, then your career is pretty much set. Teddy was once the heir apparent to the Hart dynasty. He combined his lineage with fantastic athleticism and sheer skill between the ropes, but his ego and poor behavior have left him a nobody. His uncle, the legendary Bret Hart, called him the greatest wrestler to never make it. At age 18, Teddy was the youngest superstar to ever sign a WWE contract, but he was also the youngest superstar to be released. Since then, Hart has burned bridges everywhere he has gone, so WWE definitely isn't the only promotion to have him blacklisted. Zahra Schreiber was essentially a magnet for controversy during her time with WWE. She embarked on a relationship with current Universal Champion Seth Rollins, which resulted in the dissolution of her marriage, had a nude picture of herself leaked online, and also had her ex-fiancé upload pictures of her with Nazi memorabilia. Now, she went on the record to say that she is not an anti-Semite, but now that she is gone, WWE obviously have no plans of bringing back a wrestler who was alleged to be a Nazi sympathizer. There is no one else who could have rounded off the list. If you're surprised to see this name, shame on you. And these were 10 wrestlers probably blacklisted from WWE. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later in the next video.